my mic is muted. So welcome everyone again to this week in Svelte. Um, I hope you enjoyed a productive week, and I hope you are on the cusp of starting your weekend. And I mean, let's start the weekend together. so. Uh, I'm Paolo. I will be your host for today, and let's jump right into it because today we will like talk a bit about uh, some like general web development topic. We will go over the changelog obviously, and I want to show you something that I think it's very interesting, and it's a pattern that will emerge for Svelte 5. So let's jump right into it with the changelog, and we have a breaking change. So yeah, this is something that some updates ago, um, some this week in Svelte ago, I was talking with you, and I was saying that they added like the third event for improving interaction to the next paint. Well, it turned out that like that was kind of problematic because browsers are weird. So as the respectful people that maintainers are, they reverted this change. So now everything works more uh, like more in sync with the browser. So but it's a breaking change because obviously like it was added and then removed. They also improved the performance of state.frozen, which is always a good thing. And they also make sure that like frozen objects in state are correctly skipped. um, this was something very like if you had a default value for a prop, if it's reassigned, that is treated as a proxy if it's proxiable. So if you are using an object to as a default value for a bindable or for a props in general, um, if you are reassigning it, it will be treated as a proxy. But there was a small bug because if like it was created as a proxy but not reassigned as a proxy. So this fixed that, and um, there was a bunch of work against map and set reactivity during this week that hopefully will be totally fixed sooner. Like I think the map is basically fixed now, and it should be a PR ready to be merged for set. There was also like some very small, like for example, these unused export let was not in the legacy replacement. So if you were ignoring these, using this error, because I don't know if you've noticed it, but now errors are slightly different named, and also they have underscore instead of um, the I don't know what's the name of the dash, I guess. Um, you can now bind active element pointer lock element to Svelte document, which is also pretty cool. Um, there was also a Svelte 4 release with these speed up regex. It's probably like some micro optimization for regex that also applied to Svelte 5, so it's interesting. If you are exporting something from a component now, you can also use like you can it will not warn for state referenced locally. So basically this is if you are using state and referencing state immediately inside the same scope, Svelte is warning you, hey, look, this state might not be in sync anymore. But this doesn't happen for the exports, because if you're exporting state from a component, you can actually change that. So the warning was unnecessary. There was a relaxation of the slot prop validation on components. This was also something related to to the AST that Svelte produce, and this is actually used inside the language server. So this is actually something that helps the language server of Svelte to like work better. This is also something like now, basically when you render something on the server. So if you are on the server and you use a Svelte component, it will have a render static method that basically you can call to basically render your Svelte component to HTML. And this was returning I will show you. Like this was returning an object with head, HTML, and body. But so yeah, head and HTML was returning head and HTML, and HTML is now deprecated, so it's still there, so it doesn't break anything. But a new property is added, which is body. And this basically, like, it's more in line because at the end of the day, like, you're talking about the head of the HTML, the body of the HTML. So it was really like a naming of this HTML. So now, like, it's still there, but it's deprecated. Also, this is interesting. Like in legacy mode, const tags are now arranged topologically, which means that if one of your const is like dependent on another one of your const, it will be rendered before. So it helps with Svelte and relax the component type. So now it's a bit more easy to work with the component type. Yep, something about type. So I think this was it for this week releases. So there's no SvelteKit release and no other release. So we can jump right into the second part of today's installment, which is all about, let me put up a banner so that it's all a Q&A. And the question was about, this is like a quick fact, a Q&A. I don't know how to call this, but yeah, basically it's all about data validators. So validators, yeah. There's not actually data validators. Maybe it's the wrong thing, but basically we're talking about runtime validators. So TypeScript is very useful because you can basically, like, if you have a type, so if you const user, you have like, you can define the type of user. Type user is equal to name string and last name string, right? So this is very useful, but TypeScript is just a type checker. So if I do this, const x user is equal to this will, like, TypeScript will yell at me, but like nothing, like I could run this code and x will be not user. So, and I can even force TypeScript to shut up just by saying this, for example. So if I do, I don't know, x dot name dot to lowercase, TypeScript is happy, but if I try to run this code, I will actually get an error because this is not actually true. So this is less useful for code that you write, but is much more useful if you are, for example, fetching something, because you might not know the shape of the object. You might think, like, you may say, okay, I expect this kind of object as like the return value, but you cannot really be sure that the the object is like this. So let's make an example. So let's say function fetch dogs. I don't know. So let's say that you know that the expected thing is actually like, let's say that you know, so you do await fetch dogs is equal this. This is probably, yeah, it won't probably async. Let's just do this just for the sake of it. So I am awaiting fetch dog, and let's say that like this is not my function. Like I don't know what this will return. So I can actually say that it will return any, because I don't know what, and I think, yeah, promise any. I don't know what this will return. So let's say that I return, I don't know, an array with name puppy, age 7, right? So I have my fetch dogs. So here dogs is any. So I cannot be sure. Now I could, for example, do something like, okay, I expect the type of a dog to be name, string, and age number. And I could do something like this, where I say as dog array. And now this everything works. Like I can do dogs dot dogs at 0 dot age I don't know, times 7. Like, okay, let's do something like this. So for each, for let dog of dogs, I want to say console.log the real age of, let's do something like this, the real age of dog.name is what, dog.age times 7, right? So if I try to run this, everything is fine. The real age of puppy is 49. Now, let's say that this API actually changes and returns something different. So instead of name is, I don't know, first name, because now the dog also has a last name. Puppy, puppy is the same. Now, as you can see, TypeScript is not like it's fine for TypeScript. It's fine because it doesn't know that this has changed. So, but if I try to run, you can say that the real age of undefined is 49, which is bad. Now, a solution to this would be to check if this is actually a dog. So, if I want, I could do something like this. I can do if dog. So I could check that name in dog and dog.name, type of dog.name is equal to string. And actually, I think I should check before that type of dog is equal to object. And type of dog.name is equal to string. Now inside here, I should have dog dot. No, I don't think it's like this. Okay, it's fine. Like in theory, with TypeScript, you can do something like this. So you can narrow down your various things until you get actually a type. So in this case, let's say I think I can do something like dog. Oh, I think it's because it's a let. Let me do const. Now this might work. Dog, no. Okay, but let's ignore this because it's out of the scope of the thing. So this is pretty annoying because this is just to validate that dog.name is inside a dog. It's a lot. So obviously, whenever there is a task that is very annoying to do, libraries come to help. So um, what we are talking about is libraries that help you to do these, to validate your data. So I will talk about some various libraries. The most famous one probably is Zod. Let me zoom in a bit. So Zod is a TypeScript first schema validation with static type inference, which is a bunch of words. But at the end of the day, I want to see if there is a basic usage. Yeah. So you can import Z from Zod, and this Z has a bunch of schema definition. So in this case, you are telling that if you parse something with this schema, this is known to be a string. So what the example that is doing is that you create your schema, which is a string, and then you say that my schema.parse is equal to tuna, and in this case, the object is the object itself, but under the hood, Zod is validating that this is actually a string. So if you pass a number, it throws an error. And this means that for TypeScript, after this line, these, like the return value of these, will actually be a string. So let's actually try it out. So what we can do is we can go back to the TypeScript playground. We can import Zod, Z from Zod. We can create our dog schema. So const dog schema. And then we can create a complex. So you can do z.object. So because actually z.array. And our array will be an array of something. Of what? Of z.object. So this object needs, like, it needs to be an object that has a certain shape. In our case, we want to have a first name, which is a z.string. So you are basically constructing your, just like a type in TypeScript. It's very similar to this. You are constructing your schema based on this. So first name is a string, last name is a string, and age is a number. So after you do these, basically, you have this dog schema. And with these, what you can do is you can actually parse your result. So I can do dog schema dot parse dogs. Now, after this line, and so let's do these, const parsed dogs is equal to this. After this line, I can substitute this, and now dog is of type dog. So it's first name string, last name string, age number, which is different from this type that we wrote today, but this is because this dog schema is actually inferring. So now we are getting an error here because there's no name anymore. So we want first name. And the reason why this works is because if for some reason these dogs that I'm parsing is not of this shape, Zod will throw an error. So this will fail our product, and I don't think I can run this. Yeah, unfortunately, this is a problem with the TypeScript playground. But the point is that after this, if this reaches this line, TypeScript knows that this parse dog has this correct schema. Now, it's very nice. I think it's nice. As you can see, like it has a very nice syntax. It's pretty easy to grasp. You just say, okay, it's an array of object, of strings, of string, of number. And that's why probably Zod is so popular. Zod comes with a catch though. So Zod is probably the most popular one, but we will see also some other library. There are some very old one like Yap, or I think I use Joy, something like this. But nowadays there are some better options in my opinion. And the one that I want to propose you today is like another that I want to propose is one that I also use a lot, which is Valibot. Now, one of the shortcomings of Zod is that everything is inside this Z base object, which is nice because you get auto completion. So, like if I do Z dot, I get all the thing that I can use. I can say Z dot. We have to scroll a bit. Z dot any, Z dot array, Z dot begin, Z dot boolean, and stuff like that. So to solve these, there is Valibot, which is very similar. It actually released a new version very like recently, so it's very similar as you can see, but you need to import it slightly different. And the reason why you need to import it slightly different is because this is fully tree shakeable. So by doing this, if you import all as V, which is for Valibot, obviously, from Valibot, you also get all the advantages. So you have V dot and you have all the thing, like with V dot string, for example, and stuff like that. But the syntax to declare this kind of thing is slightly different. And the reason for it is because this is full tree shakeable. So these are basically all separate functions that all does only that thing. And the advantage is that if you are not using, for example, array, or if you are not using number, or if you're not using boolean, that will be removed by the bundle, by the bundler, like from the bundle by the bundler. So for example, Vite, when you bundle your code, when you build your code, will remove any function that is not used. What about optional things? Is asking. It depends on the library. In Zod, you can just do this. You can do dot optional, and this will become optional. So you are saying that this can be a string or a null or undefined. So this is for Zod. So in Valibot, as I was saying, you do slightly different way. So in this case, you can do something like this. So for example, this login. It's actually like for this simple case, it's very similar. So we can do valibot dog schema is equal to v.array, and then you can pass the kind of item, so v.object, and it's very similar, as you can see. Like we can do first name. Let's copy everything. You can do v.string, v.string, and v.number. Very similar, right? With the advantage that you can actually like tree shake away everything that you don't want. The difference is also how you call it. So you need to use, sorry, I can switch. So instead of doing .schema.parse, what you do is, so let's do Zod parse dogs, and let's call it Zod dog schema. So const valibot parsed dogs is equal to v.parse. So in this case, the parse function is on valibot itself, and then you pass the schema, which is your valibot dog schema, and then you pass your dogs. And this is basically doing the same thing under the hood. So if we switch back these to these, this doesn't change. Like dog is still first name. Like it will throw if you have anything. So as you can see, it's very similar to generate the schema. It's slightly different if you want to do some more complex stuff, because for example, for Zod, you can also say it's a string, but I want to specify that it's actually an email. So they have a bunch of this kind of thing. And this is slightly different for Valibot, because again, they don't want to attach everything to the string. So what they built is a pipe. So you can pass a schema, and then you can say v.email. So those email and string are two separate things, and you are joining them together with this v.pipe. Slightly different syntax, maybe a bit more verbose, but it's like very much advantageous in terms of bundle size. Very interesting. But those two are the one that I'm more familiar with, and I think are the one that are more or less like, I think it's more industry standard. Valibot is kind of new, but there are other options, and one very interesting is archetype. Now, if you look at archetype, what they're trying to do is to basically bring literally TypeScript into JavaScript. So they have these very strange syntax, but I think you get used to it after a while. But it's very interesting because basically you import type from archetype. So let's create const archetype dog schema, and in this case what you do is you do type, and then you pass, like, you are basically writing a TypeScript type. I actually don't know how to create an array. Oh, I think it's just these. Yeah, it's very like, it's all strings basically. And they also have, like, I think I can do probably these, I think, possibly. Let's see. So we have first name, which is of type string, and you actually like have to type string. It's very similar to TypeScript. Last name, which is a string, and age, which is a number. And like, if you, for example, want to make age optional, you can actually do this, just like in TypeScript. So this should, I don't know if this is for the array. Let's see. So to validate these, you want to do archetype dog schema, and then you call with the data dogs. And so this is parsed, so archetype parsed dogs. And this is also kind of weird because, like, the type, it's, yeah, okay, it's slightly different. I don't think I can do, like, can I do these? I don't think. Yeah. How do I make an array of this? Because I can do it with the object, just for, like, I'm very curious. Let's see, array API sheets. Tuple. How can I make the whole type an array? I don't know. Okay, it's like, it's too much to do it now. So yeah, but you get the gist of it. Like, it's very similar to TypeScript, and they are also working a lot with. They're also working a lot with. Let me see if I can change this to this. Yeah. Okay. First thing first, like, it can be an error. Yeah. Like, basically, to avoid doing this, like, to check, you need to say, like, if archetype, like, you need to throw yourself basically instance of type.errors. Like, if not these, then you can go, like, if these, throw error, and then that become safe basically. So this is actually, I don't know why, like, it's an array, like, you should do something like this. and age is possibly undefined. Looks like in this case, like ignore the fact that I cannot know how to test, like how to create a schema for an array, but let's say that I did it, and so this should be it. I want to actually check later, so I will write something about it. And the new one that I actually like got suggested by Karim, which proposed me this schema, is Vine.js, which claims to be very, very fast. Like this is Zod and this is Vine, so claims to be very, very fast. And I also think like it's nice, like it's very similar to Zod in terms of API. So you can do like this, import from Vine, and then you can basically do the same thing that you do with Valibot and the rest. So you can do Vine.schema, and this is Vine.array, Vine.object, Vine.string, and I think it's .email like this, and then Vine.string and Vine.number. So yeah, basically all like they are almost everybody's converging to these it's actually validate. So we can do this. Let's say Vine parse dog, and I can do Vine dog schema dot validate dog. What kind of error I'm getting? Yeah, okay. It's fine. I can remove this. I think it's getting... What is happening? I think it's getting stuck. So we can try to copy everything and refresh. Let's see if this fix. Yeah, basically it didn't pick up anything that we made, but luckily we saved it. So now everything should work fine. And if we change Vine parse dog with this, it should work the same. It's very, very slow. I mean, this is one of the disadvantages of these libraries, that they are making TypeScript do a bunch of inference, and this means that the TypeScript server needs to work a lot. Oh, and also my battery is empty. You're right. That's why I am struggling. So let me introduce my safe charger. Sorry. And we can continue without my computer shutting down. Okay, so this should solve our slowness issues. I hope you didn't suffer too much through it, but yeah, this was a brief introduction to data validators, which I think is interesting. But now let's jump back into Svelte, because I mean, we are this week in Svelte overall. So let's jump back into Svelte. I will change this banner. I will hide it. I will change it. And I will say Q&A. Actually, yeah, Q&A. How to use $effect.active. I kind of did something similar last week, but so last week we basically explored the start-stop notifier, right? Which made use of effect.active. And this is kind of similar, but I basically had a revelation. Motionless train on Discord. And by the way, again, join our Discord, because there is a bunch of interesting discussion, and so yeah, something like this. So we were talking in Discord about effect.active, and motionless train sent me a post on GitHub, like an issue, a PR on GitHub, where Rich Harris was actually explaining his vision around effect.active. And a sentence that really struck with me and made me realize this is the fact that effect.active is not about if you can register listeners, is about if you should register listener. Now, this may seem strange, but something like the thing that made me like light my bulb was the fact that in theory you can register an effect everywhere. So I wrote this example here, and actually this is an utility in Rund. So if you are not familiar with Rund, it's a very cool project that Thomas from LTUI is leading, but there are a bunch of contributors. And it's basically trying to create a set of utilities for runes. So yeah, there is the watch reactivity. So you can do something like this, like if you really want to have a dependency array. Don't tell Thomas, but I don't think you should use it. Sorry, Thomas. But no, there are some very interesting utilities. For example, these, like when you can have a state and like you can use it like this. You can have state history, and basically you have an history of the state, basically, and you can decrement and stuff like that, and then you can undo and redo. So very interesting. There is some other thing like element rect, where you can have reactively like the element array. I don't think I can pick it up. Okay. Yeah. I would love to resize this. I don't know, but it's fine. There is pressed keys. So like it listens in the background to every key that you press. And so it says like something like, okay, a D, oh, it's a D. It's a R, it's a U, it's a N, it's a E, it's a D, or something like that. So I think you can actually press everything together to get, you did it. Okay. So there are a bunch of interesting utilities. And one of the utilities is this media query, where you can basically pass in a media query, and this will return true or false based on the fact that it's an actual, like, if the result of the media query is true or false. So I have this basically the same code here, but the thing that struck me was the fact that initially, when we built this utility, we were initializing the effect to register the listeners and so that you can basically get an update from the browser when the media query changes, because this is actually something that you can do in the browser itself, and I cannot actually show you because it's too small. But basically, you have this window.matchMedia utility that will return true or false, and you can register a change event listener on it so that you can be notified. So the basic idea is that you can register an effect, you register an event listener on this match media, and whenever these change, you update one state variable. And by updating the state variable, Svelte is notified so that you can basically change things inside the UI based on that. The problem of registering this effect in the constructor is that then you are kind of limited to register your media query inside your Svelte component. So if you want, for example, have something like this, where you have a list of all your media queries inside a module, and then you import them inside all of your Svelte component, it will not work, because the moment you initialize the class, it will try to run an effect, and you cannot run an effect inside a module. So if I am importing this module, so if I run an effect here, you can see like you get an error in Svelte, effect or fun effect can only be used inside an effect, or so during component initialization, or inside an effect.root. So another option would be to create an effect.root and then use the effect inside the effect.root, but this is very dangerous because like basically all of your application has an effect root, and having different root means that you then have to clean up that root. So you need to recover the cleanup function here, and you need to call the cleanup function sometime in the future, basically. And this can get hairy because obviously you don't know when to clean it up. It's kind of a mess. So the default was, okay, let's initialize it in the constructor, and I only allow people to use it inside their components. It's fine. But then I realized, and that's what the struck moment, that you can actually register an effect whenever you want. So, for example, you can register an effect when someone is actually getting the match inside the getter. So this is how it works. It's a bit complicated because of something that you need to do, but I will explain piece by piece, basically. So you export a class media query. You have your private state that will update. Like this is basically your state, is what will represent the match or not. Then you actually need to have this effect set up, which is a Boolean variable, is just to avoid recreating an effect every time you use this function. So once the effect is set up, you don't want to create a new effect every time. You just want to create a new effect every time the old effect as being cancelled. And then this is what is kind of like weird, because basically you want to have a query which is a derived prop, because it should derive by the query that you pass in. So you can pass something like this, or you can pass a function that return a query so that it's also usable as a state, like it's also stateful. And so you have this query prop, and then you have the actual query that is derived by, and you can use also derived, but TypeScript will yell at you. But basically with this derived by, this query prop will be set in the constructor, so it's not a problem that here you are trying to see like if type of this query prop is a function, then you just call the function. Otherwise, you just return query prop itself. And then you have this match media, which is the actual like core of the thing, and which is a derived based on this query, so of this state here, this derived here, and it's calling window.matchMedia. So whenever this changes, this will run again, and it will rerun the match media algorithm against that. So to recap, this will be what say if the media is matched or not. This is just to avoid creating multiple effects. This is just to store the query that you pass into the constructor, and pay attention, this does not need to be a state because it doesn't change basically. This is the actual query, so it's basically what this is returning, and this is actually the result of the match media algorithm against this query. So in the constructor, the only thing that we do is calling, like assigning this query to query prop. And that's it. So if you register a new media query and you never call it, you are not registering an effect, which is good. Like you are lately creating a new effect, which is good, because otherwise you will basically create a new effect for every time you instantiate a new class like this, and it's wasteful basically. When you will create the effect is actually when someone try to access match, because if no one wants to access match, there's no need to create the effect. So let's see the getter for match. So the getter for match is very simple, because first thing is check if the effect has already been set up. So if the effect is already been set up, it will skip. And like, sorry, it's the opposite. Like if it's not been set up, it will enter here. If it's already been set up, either if the effect is active, so if we are inside an effect, we don't know to update this manually, because if we are inside an effect, this means that this is running and it's keeping the match value in sync with the browser, like with what the browser is. But if we are not in an effect, so basically this is we are calling dot match inside a module or inside an event for something like that. So if we are not inside an event, the only thing that we are doing is that we are basically using, like, reassigning this match to the current value. And by the way, I learned literally today, because Thomas was made a PR to fix how much media query worked in Rund. And I actually commented this, saying, yeah, but you're never rerunning window.matchMedia, so this is the old value. And I learned today that this is actually a getter for match media, so this will be the new, like, the updated value. So this is just reassigning this dot match, and then we are returning this dot match. So this is for the case when you are actually accessing this getter outside of an effect. But if you're accessing these inside an effect, so here, like in the template, you're actually inside an effect. If you're accessing these inside an effect, then what we want to do is, if we don't set up the effect already, we create a new effect where we set up the event listeners, and then we set effect setup to true. And when this effect gets destroyed, so this basically ties this effect to the component lifecycle. When this effect is destroyed, then we remove the event listener and we say that the effect is not being set up anymore. So if the effect is already been set up and we are inside an effect, we just return this match. So this will all be skipped, and we just return this match because we know that it will be in sync with the browser thanks to this event listener. And if instead the effect was never being set up, then we create this new effect, and from this moment on, the value will be in sync with the browser. So I think this is a very powerful, like, concept, and I think that this is very useful for you to write your own utilities. Like, when you're writing an utility in Svelte 5 using, like, an external, like you're building in a module, basically, keep in mind that you can initialize your effects literally inside the getter. So this will help you because you will create lesser effect, will help you because you can then create your helper. You can instantiate your helpers inside your models. And I think this is a very, very powerful concept. So I think that's it for today. It's been 15 minutes, so thank you for bothering with me. I hope you learned something. And again, I want to thank you, Thomas, because he actually made me learn something today. And thank you because it's also working on Rund. And thank you for all the contributors that are working on Rund. But in general, thank you to you if you are doing open source, because it's a wonderful thing, in my opinion. And I hope you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed today's installment of This Week in Svelte. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye.